come here to chew bubblegum.
You're listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum, recorded from a secret location in the city that moves mountains.
Greetings and good morning, everyone. Welcome into Here to Chew Bubblegum. I am Goose, and today's show is going to be just a little bit different. It's not the show we had planned, but it is the show that you are going to be getting. Basically, in Kentucky, where we are from, myself, Dirty Dan, and Rebecca, we are expecting a huge snowstorm and some possible ice. And as luck would have it, or unlucky, I have to be out to work today at the cookie factory. Somebody has to keep those ovens burning, and as you guessed it, it is me. I'm the one that keeps those ovens burning. Again, this is episode 63 of Here to Chew Bubblegum. This is the second special edition episode that we've ever had of Here to Chew Bubblegum. In this special edition episode of Here to Chew Bubblegum, we're going to talk about some of the programs that are featured on the show, as well as the premiere first episode of Bowling with Bollin coming on later on in the show. Before we get started with everything, I want to let everyone know that we have been nominated for Best Podcast in the Appalachian Arts and Entertainment Awards. And we do want you to go vote for us. You can go to Appalachian Arts and Entertainment Awards.com. You fill out a short registration. And under podcast, you will see Goose Here to Chew Bubblegum on Best Podcast. Please click that. Now, I did not submit this. As a friend of the show, Seth David, told me and explained, somebody had to nominate us for this. So whoever that person was, thank you very much. We definitely appreciate that. And no matter where you may be listening today, if you're listening in the Bluegrass State, if you're out on the roadway, please be safe. No matter where you are listening at, I'll say that again, all over the world, please be safe. Take care of those that mean the most to you. And don't forget, you can always call, text, or leave a voicemail that will play on the show. That's simple to do. Just call 606-373-3396. That's 606-373-3396. And as always, you can email us, Goose at HereToChewBubblegum.com, Dirty Dan at HereToChewBubblegum.com, or Rebecca at HereToChewBubblegum.com. Now we're going to jump right in, and the first programs that Here to Chew Bubblegum ever offered, the first one was Ned Said, and that just caught on, and that was actually recommended by a listener. Now, Ned hardly stops by the studio anymore, but he is there to record the Ned Saids and keep you entertained. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play a bunch of Ned Saids, and these are totally unedited. This was our last recording session that we had. And again, these are unedited versions of Ned Said, and we hope you enjoy it. We are recording. Wait just a second. I'll tap you on the shoulder when to go. Go.
Sloths can hold their breath longer than dolphins. People used to say prunes instead of cheese when having their picture taken. In the Philippines, McDonald's serves spaghetti. I'll redo that one.
Okay.
In the Philippines, McDonald's serves spaghetti. Gotta redo that one. In the Philippines, McDonald's serves spaghetti. 152 people in the United States is named LOL. Camels have straight spines. Pineapples take 2 years to grow. The difference between 1 million seconds and 1 trillion seconds is 40,000 years. an 18-year-old can legally adopt a 17-year-old. The first person ever convicted of speeding was going 8 miles per hour. Goosebumps are meant to ward off predators. Your nostrils work one at a time. Space smells like seared steak. Riding roller coasters could help you pass kidney stones. Years ago, cigarettes were used to treat asthma.
There you go. And coming back from that, I hope that you found a little laughter in that. The second program that we ever offered on here at Chew Bubblegum is near and dear to my heart. They have since went on to do their own podcast, spookyfamilypodcast.com. I'm talking about Elliott, Gertie, and Beagle. And they actually filled in for us. I think it was episode 28, maybe. And I just love what those guys do, the product they put out. And here is an old Elliott's article that also features Gertie and Beagle. We hope you enjoy it.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are listening, wherever you may be listening from. This is Elliott from Elliott's Articles on the Here to Chew Bubblegum podcast. Today we've got a pretty good story. I'm going to let my spooky family take over and lead the way today. I'm going to try to sit out and not speak at all unless I am spoken to, and even then I'm probably just going to go, uh-huh, or nuh-uh. But let's take it away, Beagle. What's the story and where did you find it at?
All right, so it's going to be Spring Hill Jack today, and this is coming from Weird Kentucky. It was by Jeffrey Scott Holland. Just so if our viewers don't know, Weird Kentucky is a fantastic book to pick up on. It's got a lot of other different stories into it, just all about how strange Kentucky really is.
It'd be like the ultimate road trip book if you lived in Kentucky. You can just kind of plot it and follow along.
Especially our family has made many plans that have fallen through involving the book.
Thanks, pandemic.
The spooky family.
Yeah, thanks, COVID.
Thanks, COVID-19.
But we're not here to talk about COVID today. We're here to talk about the legendary Spring Hill Jack. Now, in 1837, a frightening humanoid, decked in all black, leathery cape, and equipped with bat-like wings and pointy horns. Listen, we've talked about this before the podcast. Let's just let it go a little bit longer, and we're just going to let this be on the nose for a little bit.
It's not Batman.
It could be Batman.
Oh, it's not Batman. Please, let's just leave it at it's not Batman, and I'll live a happy life.
All right, you know what? And nowhere in the article will it say either that it's Batman.
It's going to say that he inspired. I know what it's going to say.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, if you haven't read it.
Come on, guys. I mean, leave my heroes out of this.
Okay. We definitely want to leave your heroes out of this because the next thing it says is allegedly began assaulting women in England. It's away from here. Don't worry about it.
Is it away from Is there a large body of water that separates us?
Yeah. Later on, the article is referred to as the pond.
Oh, yes.
The big pond.
The big pond.
The big pond.
The strange rogues myth grew into an enduring legend, with reports of sightings being quite common throughout the 19th century. Some people say the creature was ultimately the inspiration for Jack the Ripper and comic book characters such as Beep. What do you think the beep was?
Superman.
It was definitely Superman because he can leap over in a single bound.
Yes, exactly.
Spring
It wasn't
Hill
Batman
Jack.
at all.
It was not. We don't say that.
No.
Sure.
Still others have noted the resemblance to the legendary Mothman. Now that's the interesting part of this.
That is, for us, that's the interesting part.
Is
of
it just
this.
like because of the dark shape, and I guess perched on
I mean,
high places and
so it's a dark figure attacking people at night with gigantic wings.
was there red eyes reported too? I guess. Or?
Well, so I couldn't find anything about it having red eyes. Spring Hill Jack.
Yeah.
But later on in the article, when eventually, supposedly, there is a similar entity in Kentucky, specifically in Old Louisville.
Oh, okay.
He had some type of light emanating from his chest.
Awesome.
So
Tony Stark.
So let's move on to that part.
always fine,
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
sorry.
That's always fun. I know. We're nerds. We're super big, super nerds.
So
We're nerds in the mountain.
I will say,
Yeah, that's a really good podcast, by the way. It's on YouTube and other places too, but YouTube especially.
Yeah.
Look up Nerds in the Mountain, and if you like it, tell them the Spooky
Marvel,
family sent you.
Yeah,
And that they're wrong. DC's bad, and Marvel's better.
Marvel's better.
Yeah.
It usually gets a rise out of them. So could Spring Hill Jack, whatever he was, have sprung his way across the big pond of Kentucky? I like that. I like that whole thing.
Yeah, I do too.
It was like a dad joke. So researcher Jim Brandon, everybody knows Jim, Jim, big Jim. Jim Brandon tells us reports that he has found from 1880 describing a tall, thin weirdo that appeared out of nowhere and began a terror campaign in Old Louisville, frightening the locals and ripping the clothing from females in the streets. What's his deal?
Man, listen, like, maybe, I mean, he was a tall, thin weirdo. I don't, he's going to do whatever weirdos do.
Weird things. Of course, he's doing his thing. I don't want to say it again just because it's so, he does it all the time. Eyewitnesses describes his superhuman ability to escape by jumping impossible distances and springing over objects as tall as horse-drawn carriages, leaping and climbing away to safety on rooftops, which sounds a lot like that.
Yeah.
Okay. This creature was described as wearing a cape and a helmet.
I mean, you got to protect yourself if you're on the rooftops.
But having an eerie glowing light emanating from his chest, like I was describing earlier.
Okay, I've got some theories, but we'll wait.
Okay. The description of his outfit seems to oddly match the British entity version of him, I guess. Which one major difference being the light emanating from his chest.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But we can also deduce that the creature... see here, I'm kind of lost. Sorry about that. The creature appeared in outlying farms as well as downtown, because one sighting has him jumping over haystacks and completely disappearing on the other side of one. Now, I'm assuming that's meant for us to understand how tall haystacks are because we're from Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I think what you're supposed to take from that though is like haystacks are usually out in an open field. Mm-hmm. And if he can jump over top of one, okay, that's pretty impressive. But if he can jump over one in an open field, and then when you go to find him, he's no longer there, where did he go? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that's what that's leading us towards.
There's just a very small little thing left at the end here. I just want to get this in real quick before we kind of discuss. Even stranger, the Louisville Courier-Journal reported that on July 28th, 1880, the very same day the Jack-like person began his attacks, many citizens downtown spotted a tiny open platform craft of some sort flying through the air.
Okay.
It flew low enough that they could see that it was being piloted by a seated man surrounded by machinery, which he operated with his hands and feet.
I mean... Yeah, so what all... Let's look at this case. Let's break it down. First of all, we have some... By the way, did he go by Spring Hill Jack here in Kentucky? Did they give him a name?
Well,
I don't know if he spoke a lot as he was ripping bodices and jumping over buildings.
I'm Spring Hill Jack. Mwah!
The entity here... see, they just speculate that the entity that's here... where he was so similar to the British, which was actually named Spring Hill Jack. So technically the one in Kentucky is either like maybe a Spring Hill Jack imposter or something else entirely, or it's him just...
So I looked it up just now. Like that's why I was on my phone. And apparently he's called the Demon Leaper of Louisville. The Demon Leaper of Louisville.
Ah, okay. So
yeah.
The Demon Leaper of Louisville is...
Yeah.
Basically,
I would have called him the lascivious Louisville Leaper myself. Triple L.
Gertie, say that 5 times fast.
No.
Thanks,
There's
Gertie.
There's no way. There's no way I can do that.
There's no way.
You're awesome. I'm still mad at you. All right. So none of our listeners know why, but trust me, I have every reason to be mad.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this for a second. Let's break it down. So let's go around the room here. First of all, he has of course he's got a lot to do with or look like Spring Hill Jack, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we know that Spring Hill Jack supposedly influenced another murderer in England, Gertie.
Batman when he went to
Batman was a murderer
to
in
the United
England?
Kingdom?
Well,
What
Maybe.
version of Batman are you referring
There's been
to?
a lot of
it's like I
versions
don't
of
even
Batman.
know you all anymore.
You all?
Why are you dragging me in
Why
this?
did you do that?
I don't know. Because you brought it up.
That's true.
I think you're talking about
I
Jack
picked
the
the
Ripper.
I am talking about Jack the Ripper.
Okay.
So Jack the Ripper, he's got a lot to do with that. And Jack the Ripper is involved in all kinds of different conspiracies involving the royal family, the Freemasons. He's involved with. He's also
He was
supposedly
an impressionist painter too for a while. They thought
Yeah.
maybe.
And supposedly there's a chance, like a small chance, that he may actually be an American that we talk about sometimes when we talk about serial killers, and that would be had a
H.H.
hotel,
Holmes.
H.H. Holmes.
Yeah.
So he had a hotel. So I mean, there's that. There's that
very,
connection.
very famous.
Then, you bring up the fact that he looks a lot like the Mothman. And so I want to mention the cool thing about that article is it mentions that he was in some kind of flying machine at the end there.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, we're talking 1880. 1880. Like, there's not that many flying machines at all, especially in Kentucky. Are we talking about a UFO maybe? Like a UFO
Possibly.
case of some sort? Although it did say he was running it with his hands and feet, so
Yeah.
I don't really know about that. But, I mean, there's all kinds of connections there. And you're right, that the light in his chest, I mean, who's to say that if he is some sort of weird, like, steampunkish, like, assassin of some sort, that he doesn't upgrade those to goggles later on, and we've got red eyes, and he ends up in Parkersburg. Louisville to Parkersburg is not that big of a leap if you're going across the Ohio River, down to getting down to the Kanawha River and all that good stuff.
But I'd say he traded in his ability to leap.
It's like 80 years.
Well,
I mean, if he's,
I'm sorry. How long do immortal
if he's
assassins
humanoid,
live?
I don't know.
Like, it could be anything.
Have you played too much Dishonored?
I have.
Okay.
That's a good game.
Steampunk assassin.
Big old nerds. That's us.
Like we said. Yeah.
But
one of the things I find is that he just decided to, like you said, I guess stop leaping and use those wings if he truly
Right.
became the Mothman.
Well, I mean, if he's already got a flying machine of some sort, like how he might just integrate that into his costume, and
I
now
have
he's Mothman.
no idea why this comes to mind, but every time I think about Spring Hill Jack operating some type of flying machine, I think of Wild Wild West.
Yeah, I actually know it looks a lot like the spider. Like I think about
That's steampunky.
the
I
spider.
guess that's
at the
because
end.
of the genre that we're referring to. Like,
probably.
it
I
just
mean,
kind of.
But this is, I mean, let's break it down even further. This is just an interesting case. I mean, you hear about this stuff in fiction all the time. And I'm not saying that this isn't fiction, but I am saying that you never hear about this in Kentucky, especially 1880s Kentucky. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
The scariest thing in 1880s Kentucky around here were we had some ghosts and a bear or two. You know what I mean? Like nothing. Disease. That was pretty scary. We didn't have a flying machine involved bat dressed man slashing people. That's our first one of those, I guess. I hope.
Yeah. Or
That's what you think.
yes,
Big was
that's
like,
what we
I
think.
don't know, man.
There could be more.
There could be more. I mean, there was a cannibal in Big Stone Gap, so
Did he have a sidekick? Kind of like a robin?
if he might
Some
have,
kind of bird.
oh, like a cardinal. And Wolf, oh my, we're putting it all together now.
It's all coming together.
It's all coming together now. I don't know, guys. What do you think? If you're out there listening, give us an email. Tell us what you think about the Demon Leaper, the lascivious Louisville Leaper,
Spring Hill
Jack, maybe H.H. Holmes and a flying machine. Who knows? Give us an email at you can put attention Elliott or attention Gertie or attention Beagle, I guess, at here to chew bubblegum at yahoo.com, and Cronkite and Goose will get that to us. Do you all have any shows that you want us to do? Do you have anything that you want us to cover that's Kentucky based? We will gladly do that, no problem. Give us an email and let us know. You have been listening to Elliott's articles on Here to Chew Bubblegum. Dear listeners, please stay vigilant. Elliott and the Spooky Family out.
Okay, moving right along. Man, it's bringing back memories. I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as I am. We're going to jump right in to friend of the show segment, Seth Ambergy, who does Seth's Daily Podcast, and his Mysterious Appalachian Mountains with Seth. And this is his new segment. Be sure to check it out. Also, if you listen to the radio show, you will find part 1 of this on the radio show this week as well.
Welcome to the Mysterious Appalachian Mountains with Seth and David. And how are you doing today, David?
I'm doing great, Seth. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. And we actually got a guest on tonight, a famous actor and a Bigfoot researcher, Connor Flynn. How are you doing tonight, man?
Oh, bro, I am doing incredible. Sundays are my favorite days. It's the day to get close with the creator. Plus, there's football on, and I'm already just out here exploring this abandoned park. It's called Jennings Field. It's in the Panhandle, Florida, and it's actually set to be destructed here very soon. They're going to put an apartment complex. So I was just filming around here, and this place really comes to life at night. But man, it's just good to be here. And the Browns are winning, and the Titans are winning. The Steelers are losing, so it's a good time to be alive.
Especially when the Steelers are losing and the Browns are winning. That's a great time.
1,000,000%.
Absolutely, man. And I know you have a dog man story to tell us.
Yes, man. That's what really started my journey. I grew up in Ohio, Cleveland, the Mistake on the Lake, right on Lake Erie, where there's tons of UFO sightings, even so much that they say there might be a base underneath the water of the Great Lakes. And there's a serpent that patrols it, but the grass man is very well known in Ohio. But we had an encounter with a thing called the Sleepy Hollow Wolfman. And 2 of my friends actually had a daytime encounter with the same creature a couple weeks before. So I was well adjusted to hearing about this mythological creature in my best friend's backwoods. So I was really looking forward to it. And it happened on a Friday before a golf league on a Saturday. So pretty much it was the first time I was ever sleeping over there. So I was just really excited to be at Alex's house. He just moved there. It was really nice. Had a nice decked out basement with a bar, playroom, and a billiards table. We were shooting pool, and they had a walkout basement with the glass doors, and then it was the patio, and it went for about 40 yards into some caves and cliffs, dense woods. And that area also had an abandoned drive-in theater and a abandoned swimming hole that had cement like diving spots. So some old, forbidden, archaic, man-made structures, which that I've came to my research somehow magnifies and is some kind of huge tower of pull of energy for these Sasquatch, the werewolves, the gremlins, the ghouls. So I think this has been mapped out from long before. But my buddies had the daytime encounter where it crossed right in front of their car while they were being driven home by a fireman. They thought it was a deer at first, but it was on 2 legs, and they realized it was like a werewolf-like creature. They always said Wolfman, so that was what was in my head. That night when we were shooting pool, after about an hour or so, we get this strange feeling. I actually had my buddies write a testimony for my first book of what happened because it was blurry, it was staticky, we were young. It still feels like a dream, it really does. But our details still definitely align, and it did happen. But Jake and Alex describe it as rustling, like they heard something physically outside the basement, outside of the windows. And I think we were internally zapped by something like infrasound, but very passively. It was not meant to hurt us or make us ill at all, just to alert us that something was out there. Maybe even just a glance, a strong look at us, that just to get our attention. But we stopped playing, we turn off the lights, and we start looking through this small window on the side, and we see this hulking figure kind of step out of the cavern. And it was darker than the night. And I kind of saw like pointed ears. My buddies actually said that they saw glowing eyes that kind of, took over their mind. But I don't remember that much. I was just really into the huge, like Hulk type size of this creature. But we dove into the staircase after what feels like, an hour, but it was probably just a few split seconds. And then we chilled out for a bit after got our courage. We looked back out there, didn't see anything. We tried watching movies, tried getting back to normal. We were so scared. I still remember shaking, and it curled up shaking, thinking this thing could just break through the glass and take us out. We went upstairs and slept up in his room, on the second floor from the very basement. And his mom woke up the next morning and was like, why did you guys go up there? Why did you guys leave the playroom? And we said, we saw a huge creature in the backyard. And she said that every night since they moved in, she heard man-like owl calls coming from that same area. And they weren't the only ones that reported strange things. The town mascot is the Brunswick Blue Devil. A lot of people said that it was a chupacabra, but some people think a chupacabra could be a werewolf, ranging from 4 feet tall to 8 feet tall. So it was very interesting, and that kind of propelled all my stuff going forward. Me and Jake had many different encounters after that, during blood moon eclipses, during when we went hunting and hiking in the Ohio Valley, down here into Florida looking for the skunk ape. I feel like it's followed me from the land of 1,000 mountains, which is Ohio, and it's kind of navigated me down to the Florida swamps. And I've had tons of strange encounters down here. We have found Sasquatch hair in my ACA on a picnic table, and then black hair in the green swamp. And both of them we put under a microscope, and they had clairvoyant tendencies, man. It was like angelic. This DNA probably can stop all the problems of our modern man. And we're hoping to submit those to Doug Highcheck's new study that he's from Monster Quest, and he's sending out more than 40 DNA samples to 3 different labs, and really going to propel this thing forward. I'm just really excited for the 2022. I'm constantly recording. I got my GoPro running at all times. I already went on a hike this morning, videotaped a cavern that we've casted a footprint out of. We called it the Alamo Caveman or the Alamo Druid, because there's tons of other animal prints too that are very miniature. So I think that, Lord of the Rings and Harry and the Hendersons and even like Bone Tomahawk, they have roots to reality, and Shrek and the Grinch and all these other things that kind of make light of these beasts in the woods. There's something to it, and there's so much evidence that's piling up, going from credible reports from police, firemen, Native American, and then also professors from college and high-ranking military people. Just on my channel alone, I've interviewed land surveyors, policemen, firemen that have all had strange encounters while on duty. And it just goes back to even cave art and then giant sculptures that are found way deep underground. So I think that modern academia and science community is going to have to either come to terms with the existence, or they're really going to be fighting a losing battle, because the evidence is piling up little by little. And I really enjoy sharing it in these kind of podcasts, live at conferences. I spoke at a festival in Pace, Florida, and then I'm speaking at the Lakeland Great Florida Bigfoot Conference, which is totally major. That's major leagues. And then I'm really pumped about just starting my own show as well. And my TikTok's been blowing up. One of my videos just hit 3 million, and another one just hit 1 million this morning. So I'm approaching like 45,000 followers or something. I'm at like 42 right now, but the pace is crazy, but who knows, that might all not add up if that dog behind me catches up. But it's just awesome, really spreading my wings and being cutthroat in this world, because all these skeptics are trying to come sideways, but they better be as well researched as us. They say there's no DNA. What about the Ketchum study? What about Doug Highcheck's 40 studies? What about all the different ones coming from across the world? There was a Yeti scalp from Nepal, a finger bone from Nepal, a hand that came across. There's tons of stuff that are in American museums that I've documented and are very easy to reach and access, that we cannot hide behind. There's no more evidence. There's no physical proof, because there is, guys, and we just have to catch up to the time. So I label, Bigfoot skeptics in with giraffe skeptics. They can have their conferences, but guess what? Giraffes exist, and so do Bigfoot. So we just have to bully the bullies, so that way the vulnerable people in this community, they feel confident and calm enough to share their stories. And you don't have to be scared, and you don't have to be perfect to share knowledge, because everything is so blurry in this world that even just a little bit of data and info could provide clarity. So your little instance might provide the answers to someone really struggling. So I definitely recommend people to speak their truth and not be scared that it might not make too much sense.
Yes, sir, man. And David, what was your thoughts on his story about the dogman?
Oh, that pretty fascinating, actually. You said you saw it coming out of a cave. Is that right?
Yeah, it didn't approach too much, but pretty much just stepped in sight. Or just felt like it stepped in sight. It might have not moved the whole time. It might have been stone statue. But I think that it was standing down in the cave, that it was probably 9 feet tall, but appeared to be about 5 foot to 6 foot. Because my buddies actually in their testimony said about 5 foot to 7 feet. But I think it was down in the cave a bit. So it was much bigger than it actually seemed to us on, normal eye level.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, cave systems. Yeah, I totally believe that these things actually run through caves. I mean, I think it's a very awesome way, clever way to get away from everybody. And they go in and out of those caves enough; they know their way through them. So I think they totally survive and thrive through using these cave systems to get from one point to another. So that's a very fascinating detail that he came out of the cave, and. You said you think it was between 7 and 9 feet, probably?
Yeah, ranging from probably 5 to 9 feet. I could say it could be 5 feet, because a 5 foot tall dog standing up is still a huge beast. But I'd say, probably 7 to 9. But my buddy said 5'5", so I can't throw that totally out the window. But this thing was hulking and wide, more wide and strong with posture than height.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. A lot of details you hear about Dogman. Usually they're more of an athletic build and extremely fast, of course. But and then you said somebody was hearing mock owl calls. Is that right?
Yeah, which definitely makes me start to think, whoa, is this a gugway? This could have been a Sasquatch with maybe just a little bit of a snout, because I didn't see enough in the darkness to clarify if it's Bigfoot or Dogman. But we never heard the phrase Dogman back in that day. It was always Wolfman. Sure. But my buddies, they had the daytime encounter, and they said Wolfman. They never said, they mentioned Sasquatch years later and said, oh, it could have been Sasquatch, but it was always the Wolfman from the very start. So that could have something to do with me thinking maybe one way than the other, but it just had that lycanthrope vibe to it now that I look back and hear so many more stories.
Yeah, did they mention anything of what the legs might have looked like?
No, I think it was too dark. All I could see is from, its high chest upward. Sure. It played the darkness very well.
Yeah, I think they do that very well for sure. They fool a lot of people. Who knows how many times you walk by them walking through the woods and not even know they're there. It's
1,000,000%.
Pretty amazing creatures for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, I tried to reach out to a lot more neighbors after that, but a lot of people moved from that area. So I started to think maybe that had something to do with it, because most places, most nice residential neighborhoods, or if you have nice acreage, you're going to stay there for a while. But those people didn't stay long, and maybe that was just the culture of that, or maybe it had something to do with what was in those woods.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me about if it was something to do with what was in the woods. Heard that story many times.
And a caves, man, they link Ohio, Kentucky, Seth, and then you in Indiana, man. The Mammoth Caves probably go all the way to the aquifer in the Middle Earth. So who knows what really resides out there. But I spent a lot of time when I was in Indiana exploring near Squire Boone Caverns. Have you ever been there?
I've never been there. No, we used to go to some caves called Buckner's Cave and stuff down southern Indiana, but I haven't heard of the other one that you just mentioned.
Yeah, Squire Boone Caverns. That's where Daniel Boone's brother is actually buried at. And it has many other paranormal stories and, tales of ghouls and gremlins, and probably homeless camps, just like this one leads back to. But yes, you never know how close they are, man. One of my favorite stories of recent is my buddy Flat Rock Booger. He has a bunch of security camera footage of these creatures coming onto his property, banging onto his house, even opening up his door. And most of the time they appear as shadows and weird lights, but man, he's captured some strange photographs as well at night and during the day. And that is in Evergreen, Alabama, where they made a documentary called The Town That Loved Bigfoot.
Wow.
It is pretty cool.
Seems like every state has a Bigfoot story nowadays. It's pretty amazing.
100%. Alabama's got a few, man. They got the boogers, they got the white thing, they have the Mobile wolf woman, which is a female werewolf who's ultra curvy, and then they also have Huggin' Molly, which is on the Abbeville welcome sign. It says home of Huggin' Molly, and she's like 8 feet tall, and she'll squeeze you as hard as she can until your bones break, and she screeches into your ear till you go deaf or insane. And you can't get caught after dark over there. It's a really cool spot. But man, just everywhere down here in the South has, stained soil and some kind of curse to it. So you have to either break free or purify yourself enough and pay your respects to it. And of course, my favorite story from this area is the Ocheesee Pond Wildman, and that is the one that was captured in the 1800s in the Ocheesee Pond swamp after it was harassing women and children. Native American gatherers and Civil War veterans teamed together and surrounded this thing in the swamp, surrounded it on an island, capture it, and then sent it to the Capitol. And then the governor said, "Oh, no way." Sent it to Chattahoochee Hospital, which my good friend, he is the IT guy there, and he actually lives on campus. So I spend a lot of nights there photographing and videotaping, and there's underground base and underground bunkers, and it gets really deep. And that's where the Ocheesee Pond Wildman is buried. After 3 years of experimentation, they say he passed away. And then they buried him with a bunch of Native Americans. And then they built a building on top of him. Other people say he's in a solo grave over by the abandoned golf course. So it's super interesting to actually be in that area. And then in modern times, it's very close to Torreya State Park, where Stacy Brown filmed the skunk ape on, he filmed it with his dad, but it was all over Animal Planet, Discovery Channel, and a bunch of other things. And then that has really, brought many people to this area. And then Donnie Miller at a face-to-face encounter. I've had boulders thrown behind me. I recorded something on my GoPro wading through a creek below us on the hillside, just the audio of it, but still something very massive. And that was one of the more scared times I've been in the swamp. But just every day and every night is something new here, because even on my drive home from work, I go past where one of my Native American friends witnessed a dog man or a werewolf turn from 7 feet to 30 feet tall, taller than the treetops. The interview is pretty crazy.
Wow.
So I'm going towards shapeshifter and skinwalker or whatever crazy mythological word that fits into the Dogman legend. with that story. But yeah, it gets really cool. So even when I'm, a little bummed in the morning driving to work, I still have things to look out for. And then on my free days, I'm finding bottles and relics and arrowheads and Native American pottery and Sasquatch footprints, so that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I feel you there, man. That's basically what we do. We go out and explore everything. We hunt for treasure in southern Indiana, and of course, southern Indiana is also some good Bigfoot sightings down in there, that region too. So we spend a lot of time in southern Indiana for sure, looking around and exploring different, lost areas for say. It's a lot of fun.
100%. And the Ohio River, of course, goes into Indiana as well. And they are known for the green-clawed beast, mantis man, their own type of serpent, and of course, the god Quetzalcoatl, Mothman. And it always goes back to Mothman and, the Pensacola serpent and the Lake Erie monster. And of course, Nessie, man, it all was in our childhood for a reason. And I feel like we've all been given our paths to kind of spread awareness and hopefully get some more evidence, for this movement. I just got selected for the Bigfoot Odyssey 168, which I have to spend 168 hours straight in the South Florida swamps with a research team. So that's going to be super cool. I cannot wait.
I just watched a show on that exact same thing down in Florida. Awesome.
Yes.
That was an awesome show. The way they showed the faces in the trees and what was actually going on with the reflections. Amazing. It makes sense. It totally makes sense.
100%, man. I definitely appreciate you watching that. I wasn't part of that first expedition, but I am going to be part of the sequel. So you're going to have some dog in the fight. I'm very excited for that. And yes, those pictures are groundbreaking. I've shared a few of them. They reflect green because the swamp is green. And that just shows you that there are incredible photographs out there. I post great photographs every single day on my TikTok and awesome footage. Some people might not agree that some are authentic. All I'm doing is sharing hundreds of possible evidence, and then I just let the conversation develop and transcend from there. But all we can do is spread awareness, just so there's less Henry McCabe's, Cullen Finnerty's, Jared Adaderos, Dennis Martins, Albert Osmond, all the people that have been taken by Sasquatch. Some make it back, some don't.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
The Albert Osmond story, that's a fascinating story. So much detail. I listen to it over and over again. It's really amazing. But what really got me on those pictures down in Florida was it was basically the same face in different locations, and it just totally, you could totally see it after you made sense of it. The reflection and the color of their skin just made them blend in so well. It was really, really amazing.
100%, and that's what a lot of the photographs that I've taken have showed too. So it confirmed things for me, but it also just showed and opened up the possibilities that they're not all going to look like Patty and great apes and Marilyn Monroe posing for the picture. Most of them are going to be blending in with the trees, looking like foliage and camouflage, because that's how they've survived for millions and billions of years.
Exactly. Yeah, that's they have, I don't know which way to go with it. I don't know. Are they a humanoid that just split off from us somewhere along the path and stayed primitive? And, that's just really hard to, it's really hard to wrap your mind around India, really, because everybody has their own theory and they all have a good argument for their theory. So who's right, who's wrong? Hopefully someday we'll find out, right?
1,000,000%. And there's so many different ways to it, like the skunk ape that's taking photos of in Mayaca definitely looks different than Patty in Bluff Creek. So maybe those are different subspecies, or maybe they're totally different creatures at all. But a lot of people are pushing the monkey or the monkey man. I can definitely say to you that these creatures can mate with human beings, so they definitely have some kind of human hybrid in them. And as we know from Homo erectus and all these Dragon Man skulls, that there are other upright beings that existed together on this planet. So who's to say they still aren't there out here now? And it really doesn't stop at, leprechauns, fairies, Bigfoot. I definitely think, there was a mud flood. Mountains used to be alive. Jack and the Beanstalk's based on a true story. The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. There's an earth below our feet. There's an earth up in the sky as well. And heaven is a real physical place, 73 miles up. So I'm closer to heaven than I am to you guys. And that's pretty powerful that we can connect like that and still be in touch in the real world. But a lot of things have gotten so blurry in this existence, and people are living so backwards that I just want to, share hope and share positivity and encourage people to get outside and meet people and shake hands and smile and, do it all, like live how we used to, because that's what it's about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have some more conversations with you, actually, Connor.
100%, man. I will definitely get your contact information, and I know a lot of good Bigfoot podcasts as well that are always looking for guests, and you definitely bring an interesting aspect to it, man. And coming from Indiana, which is a neighbor state to my homeland, it's close to my heart, so that'd be very cool. And I have nothing but big plans for the future, man. And if I come back to the Midwest, would definitely like to link up, and if all three of us can get together and hit some caves, that would be some magical times.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe get over in Eastern Kentucky, over where Seth is.
Perfect place. I definitely appreciate you doing this, though, man. I appreciate you doing this, David, as well, being my co-host every week. And this has been the Mysterious Appalachian Mountains. Y'all have a good night, and God bless.
Seth does a great job. We're lucky to have him out here to chew bubblegum. Now, fans of Believe It or Not, put your seatbelt on and hold on tight for an all-new episode of Believe It or Not with myself and Justin Perkins. And this show came about, it was actually Justin Perkins' idea. And I love doing anything with Justin. I love it when he comes in the studio. I love recording the Believe It or Nots with him. Justin is one of the smartest guys I have ever met. Him and Luke Fugit are like Albert Einstein and Isaac Newton to me.
Hello. Some of the best things in life are not quite believable.
Jot 'em down, store. Love from Abner. I'm Goose, and welcome to Believe It or Not with Justin and Goose. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. We the last time we came in, we knocked out, I think, like probably 6 episodes of Believe It or Not. I've went through those, love those. I've not checked the email in a while, so we could possibly have some email there, but I've not. Sorry, I've not checked it.
I've not done anything. I've been hibernating.
We, let's see, it is the first day of the new year, January 2nd, 2022. I just hope that 2022 is not 2020 part 2. You get it?
I definitely agree with that.
So, we've had tornadoes in our state. We had some yesterday. We had some back in December. Done some major damage, and that normally doesn't happen in Kentucky.
No, and especially not this time of year. Like it was heartbreaking, especially, Western Kentucky, that close to Christmas and the lives lost and stuff like that. It makes you really appreciate the good times that you do have, because there's some people had some really bad times towards the end of 2021.
Definitely. And it makes you realize what's important.
Yeah.
And one thing, us being from the mountains, and I'm sure you were raised the same way, family first, Sunday dinners, Christmas, getting together with the family. Some of the family you probably are just glad that you would see only on Christmas. And there's been times from the county that we're from that there's been people that don't go to family functions, but they see each other every Tuesday and Thursday in the Knott County District Courtroom.
Oh yeah, well, Christmas. You say that this was the weirdest Christmas we'd really ever had as a family. As far as me and my wife goes, we got COVID before Christmas. And so we had COVID on Christmas Day. So Christmas was me, my wife, my son, and luckily my daughter had come in before she got sick. She got sick same time we all got together. But luckily she did get to be there. So, we didn't get to see my parents or her parents or extended family or anything on Christmas. And that's the first time I can remember doing that since I was like 18,
Right.
and just living on my own away from here. But even then, I eventually got to come back, and with schedules and stuff, we've still not got to have, I guess, our quote family Christmases with our respective families. But it was different. It was different this year.
Now, this, believe it or not, may be just a little bit different. We may just talk back and forth a little bit. We may mention a subject or one or two. What was the best Christmas gift that you can remember ever getting?
Wow. In my entire life, I was in grade school, and my grandfather got me a Epiphone acoustic guitar, a black single cut acoustic guitar. Nothing special, not a super expensive guitar, but that guitar probably changed. Like, I'm not a great guitar player. I really wouldn't even consider myself a guitar player. I'm a mediocre bass player at best. I'm not a great author. I don't have any great artistic skills whatsoever.
I'm going to interrupt you. You are a great author.
I can cheat my way through, but I think that guitar was the catalyst for a lot of that. You and I have talked today a lot. I've spent a lot of time the last couple of weeks with a buddy Bruce of mine going back over some old songs we wrote 20 years ago, and those are a result of initially getting that guitar. And my books are a result of me wanting to write music and couldn't, so I wrote poetry, and getting that came from that guitar. So the most impactful one to me would probably be that guitar.
That is a good one. That is a good one. I always had one of my dad's electric guitars growing up. I cannot remember the name brand of it, but I mean, it wasn't in tune when I got older. It had like 3 strings on it, and I would strum that, all day long. Probably for me, one of the best Christmas gifts I ever got was probably my Nintendo.
Oh,
just because they had been out a few years, and when I got that, I think 12 hours straight I played Duck Hunt and Mario Brothers.
I was obsessed when I first seen it. It really impacted me like no other system ever did, because it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like it. Like, I know Atari was around when I was younger, but I didn't know anything about Atari until after the NES. The NES was the one that I was like, wow, this is different.
Now, I'm going to ask you a serious question, and if you can't answer this, I'm going to be very disappointed. Did you ever play Contra?
Oh, yes.
Do you remember the cheat code for extra lives on Contra? You really do not remember that? Oh, my gosh.
Up, down, left, right, A, B?
Up, down, left, right, BA start.
Oh, okay. I missed the BA start. Okay. Look, I played it with the Game Genie and still never beat it.
Really?
I have never beat Contra. That may be the hardest game I've ever played in my life.
That was probably one of the only games I ever beat. Early on. There was one called Jackal. That was an Army game.
I remember
After
it
that, I actually beat Jackal as well. But yeah, that cheat code, up, down, left, right, BA start. That was, You
got a good memory.
And I Super Mario Brothers. Did you ever get the extra men? Did you know how to do that?
I could get, there was different ones I could get, but the one where you had to jump on the step and keep hitting it and get the 100, yes. I never could time that. My son can do it, but I can't.
I was a master of that.
Wow.
Back in the day.
Yeah, that's above my level.
And I totally did it by accident. And I totally did it by accident one day. And I remember, I'm like, wow. And then, maybe a couple of weeks later, we were out somewhere in Hazard. I don't remember it may have been a Roses, it may have been Magic Mart. And I remember looking at a Nintendo magazine, and it had that cheat code in it. I'm like, I already know that because I've already done that.
That's something that I've talked about a lot of different times, especially with my son. I mentioned it on podcasts and stuff. And that's something I guess really younger kids, even younger adults right now, not going to remember the importance of magazines back then, from video games to especially wrestling. Like, that's how I got all my news about wrestling and stuff. That was the highlight of my month a lot of times. Was usually once to twice a month, my grandpa would take me to IGA and home, and I'd get some of the handfuls of candy that you could get, and I'd get a wrestling magazine every month. Sometimes I'd get other stuff depending on what it was, movies, whatever, but I got a wrestling magazine every month,
I actually have something similar, because I would go with my mom pretty much every week, and I would get a Hip Raider magazine. Because I was into all the hair band metal music, And I will never forget just the excitement of going. And I would read Hit Parader on the way home. I would read it cover to cover at home. I would cut out pictures. I would hang them up. And my mom never knew this, but I stumbled across, I cannot remember where I got this from. And Mom, if you're listening, I apologize. I got a picture of Samantha Fox. She was a singer from the 80s. Beautiful, blonde. I mean, that was like the first time I ever saw her. I was like 12 years old. And I had saw a picture of her. I cannot remember where it was at, topless. And I paid a guy. It was like a little poster, maybe like the size of a sheet of paper. And I paid him like $4 for that picture.
It's a good investment back then.
And I took it home and I taped it up on the back of my door because my mom never would look at the back of my door. Yeah. And it stayed up for years on the back of my door. And, every night when I closed my bedroom door, I would look at that picture of Samantha Fox. And
I mean, most of my high school years were spent reading Hit Parader and Circus and stuff like music magazines. That's what came later. And like they were huge.
Yeah.
They were a big part of the whole zeitgeist and whatever you were into. Like I had a lot of buddies that were big into computers and I wanted to be. I just didn't have the intelligence. And there were a lot of magazines and stuff you could get with that. And I guess as the internet came along, it slowly
When was the last time you bought a magazine?
I used to. A new, recently released magazine would have probably been a National Geographic a couple years ago. This is going to sound sad, but one of my greatest goals growing up was to have a membership to the National Geographic magazine because I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Now, a month ago, I was in Prestonsburg at the Goodwill and bought a whole collection. I think it was 2 or 3 years worth of National Geographics. They had the whole series, the beautiful covers, the photography and stuff. But that was probably the last one I bought. I do subscribe to Bass Player Monthly. Mm-hmm. I bought a bass at Guitar Center a while back and got a free membership, and they just never canceled it. So I actually do get a magazine in the mail every month still. But 9 times out of 10, even with my tab, I go online and get it somewhere else. I don't get it out of that magazine. Now, used to. That was the only way you could get the tab.
The last time I bought a magazine was in the mid-2000s, and it was a men's health magazine because I lived in Hyman at the time, and that was the last magazine I ever bought. Every now and then, I'll get a Fingerhut catalog come in the mail to the house.
I'll see those occasionally.
That's pretty much it. Did you ever? I'm a little bit older than you. Did you ever have the Sears catalog come and you would look through it and that
was the highlight of the year?
Okay,
that was the highlight of the year. Like that is something I know people that collect those. That's something I would go back and still collect. And
people actually collect.
Oh yeah, they're worth big money. Jeremy Patrick?
Yes.
First of all, Jeremy Patrick has some of the coolest stuff you're ever going to find anywhere. Jeremy has a amazing collection of things, especially from the 80s and 90s. Like he's always popping up stuff and he's a wealth of knowledge on that time period anyway. But I believe Jeremy kept everything. Jeremy, my wife kills me because his name is Jeremy, and I'm sorry, I'm from Eastern Kentucky. I say Jeremy, but Jeremy has everything I think he ever owned, including the Sears catalogs and wish books and stuff he had when he was little. And like I've seen him post pictures and stuff on social media, but I tried to buy 2 in Huntington at either a Goodwill or a Salvation Army. It was like $70, $80 a book.
For a Sears catalog.
Yes. So I didn't buy it, but that was, you look so forward to that every year to get in that.
Yeah, I would spend hours and hours looking at that. I remember once when I was maybe in 7th or 8th grade, I went through and I marked everything down with a price that I wanted. that I wanted to have as an adult. Like a state-of-the-art cordless telephone with the antenna on it. And I remember adding all this up, and it was like $3,000 or $4,000.
Man, if you could get away with that now.
Oh, yeah. And this was in the late 80s. And just, like you said, just the excitement waiting on that catalog to come. And when it would come, that was like, whoa.
being from the mountains, that was a lot of your access to the outside world, was that type of stuff. Like, I can remember going through those magazines and making list after list after list of stuff I wanted for Christmas. I don't know if I ever actually got anything from the magazine, and I was just as happy on Christmas, but it was the experience of going through that and doing it. That's like, there used to be a magazine called Black Belt Magazine, and it was a martial arts magazine, come out every month. I would sit, and as soon as I would get my copy of that for the month, lay it down and go through the pictures and just recreate the moves in the pictures over and over. Like, that was the internet.
Right.
That was whatever I was into at the time. That was the most important thing. It came from a magazine, and that's how I learned about it. It's where you got your knowledge from.
Yeah. One of the things that I always liked, growing up was, we talked about the magazine. I also love Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh yeah.
One of my favorites was Thundar the Barbarian.
Yes, I like Thundar.
What was some of your favorites when you were growing up?
I was probably pretty stereotypical for a kid. When I was young, the greatest American hero to ever live was Rambo. And even though he did have a cartoon that wasn't very successful, G.I. Joe was the next closest thing to Rambo. So G.I. Joe and Transformers was a complete and total obsession for me.
Now, you can go to YouTube and search G.I. Joe. And believe it or not, that comes in. There was only, I think, 3 seasons.
There wasn't a lot.
Of G.I. Joe. And you can watch all of those for free in order on YouTube. I think it may be the Mattel page or something on YouTube has them listed. I always loved that as well. One of the ones that I like that you don't hear a lot of talk about is Mask.
Oh, Mask was good.
So
they say they're making a movie about Mask.
Really?
Now. Yes, they say they're going to redo Mask. Mask was great. It was that toy line innovation because, He-Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers, all these were toy lines that they made cartoons for. And I think Mask was the same deal. But the 80s were a lot about action and adventure, even in because back then it was very clearly defined. You had girls' cartoons and boys' cartoons. That's the way they presented it, like it or not. But even in that, you had She-Ra, and She-Ra was a good cartoon. I watched She-Ra just as much as I watched He-Man. It was an action cartoon, but everything was toy line based and action based, and it was, I don't know, it was probably one of the funnest eras to me in cartoon, because not only did you have that, but you also still had your Scooby-Doo and your Looney Tunes. 2 of my favorites of all times is Laugh Olympics and
Laugh Olympics
Wacky Races.
Awesome.
I love those two.
Yeah, those were good. Let's see, I think it was USA Network back in the day. They had like Jabberjaw. Mm-hmm. They had some other ones. Maybe Speed Buggy was on there as well.
I did an entire podcast. And it's on both. It's on Talk Junkie and it's on Retro Cult. I went back and put it on both of them. But I originally done it for Talk Junkie. I did a entire podcast just over the USA Network and a lot about the cartoons and the wrestling stuff. USA Network, for me growing up, because I don't know what people's cables was like nationwide, but in the U.S., I mean, in Kentucky, we didn't have a whole lot.
No.
And USA was my channel.
I mean, I remember up until like probably 87, we had channels 2 through 13, and that was it, and we had TBS and we had USA Network and we had WGN out of Chicago.
Yep.
And I would watch those a lot. I mean, I was little, but I remember sitting up late and watching Night Tracks on Friday nights.
I remember that.
That was on, I think, TBS maybe. Mm-hmm. Or it might have been USA.
No, I think it was originally on USA, but I think TNT and TBS both ended up playing. There was a ton of those shows like that, like USA Up All Night, the Joe Bob Briggs show.
Yeah.
We lost Brad Holland not too long back. That was Brad's. Brad had sit and compiled all of the Joe Bob Briggs movies, plus all the cuts of him doing the talking and stuff. Brad was a genius when it comes to stuff like that. But that format of show, like the Elvira show and stuff like that was a big thing back in the 80s. And a lot of my love for bad movies come from USA Up All Night.
Well, and prior to USA Up All Night, you had Commander USA's Groovy Movies on Sundays.
Yes, I remember that.
And him and his friend Lefty that he would make. I think the guy's real name was Jim Hendrick. Might have been his real. I know his first name was Jim. I think Hendrick was his last name. And after he did that, he was on one episode, I think, of Law and Order. He played a doorman, and that was it. You couldn't find anything else on him. I mean, he was just and he was funny. You know, he was really funny because you had the redheaded guy that would do the announcing that later on became David Letterman's show announcer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not remember that until just now.
That guy was the same guy that would do all those voiceover promos on USA back in the day.
Yeah.
His name was Alan, I think was his first name.
I think so.
And he actually passed away, last year in 2021. And, but yeah, that was like his first gig was for the USA Network. Doing the Commander USA from the suburban shopping mall, Commander USA,
that was one of those channels that I always had on. You could watch Beastmaster 14 times a day.
Oh, yeah.
They'd replay the movie over and over. Then you could catch MacGyver, and then you could catch wrestling. You had Cartoon Express in the morning. You had all the late night stuff. I mean, it was probably my favorite channel.
I mean, honestly, and I've told people this lately. There's not that much in today's time on network television that really draws me in to want to watch it. And I'll be honest, and a lot of people don't like this show. Some people do. The last thing that really did was The Office.
Yeah.
That drew me in to network television to want to see, what was happening, what was going on. But then after that, I mean, other than Family Guy,
I'm like that. I'll find a show every once in a while. I'll find something, but the majority of it, I just can't. I can't get into it. Actually, I think about this often, and it's weird to me. I know now, living in Knott County, we do have TVS 24, and I don't have local TV, so I don't know what they do. I know they've always had the ad channel that runs.
Oh yeah.
And I used to watch that nonstop, especially on school closing days.
Same here.
Love that. And I know they do local sports, and that's good for the community and stuff. But when we were younger, you had TV 12.
Yeah.
And we actually had our own news program.
Yes, we did.
And stuff.
Roger
and I remember getting to go in and see the news studio and stuff. Like, that was a big deal. And I'd say a lot of younger people don't know that we had that. Believe it or not, Knott County had its own TV channel.
Yes, we did. And I remember in the wintertime from maybe like 88 or 89, there was one particular cassette or CD that they would play, and it was the same one over and over. It had the Bangles, Hazy Shade of Winter. It had some Christopher Cross songs.
Yep.
And I can't remember what else it had, maybe some Chicago songs, but it was just a different mix. And I would sit there sometimes and just listen to the music.
It was that channel got more use than I think they probably ever realized it did. I don't know. It's weird how fondly you look back on something like that, but that was a big part of my childhood.
Now, and you may not know this, I don't even know if you can find it online, but before it was TV 12 or TVS 24, before it was TV 12, it was WKRT. Kentucky River Television.
I did not know.
Yes, that was the call letters for a while.
Can we bring back our own TV channel in Knott County?
Well,
just
sure,
me and you.
Sure.
We'll just do our own program. Be like UHF. You ever watch UHF?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We'll just do all the parts.
We could definitely do that. Now, speaking of a movie, there, switching gears a little bit. Your favorite all-time comedy growing up?
That's so hard.
You only have to pick one.
That's so hard.
You only have to pick one. All right. Let me make it a little bit easier on you. What's your most memorable comedy that you enjoyed watching and you actually watched it with somebody?
Growing up.
Yes, growing up.
Growing up.
Toughie, huh?
It's because it's probably my favorite genre of movie, and it's really hard. Like, I couldn't give you an all-time favorite. There's no way. But growing up, if I had to just sit down and say, this is the movie that I didn't turn it off anytime it came on. Even the first time I watched it, I didn't understand what it was and why it was funny. but I watched it with an older person and watched them just die laughing, and I'm like, what am I missing? It's probably the Spinal Tap movie.
Okay.
I mean, it, like I said, it's one of my favorites. Not my favorite of all time, but as a kid, that and Blazing Saddles were the two movies I watched and was like, why is this funny even though I don't get it?
Right. Now, both of those are great movies. Blazing Saddles, way beyond its time.
Oh,
way
yes.
beyond its time. Hilarious movie. You couldn't make that movie today.
No.
I always liked Up in Smoke with Cheech and Chong.
I loved Up in Smoke. I was a little older probably when I saw that, but I liked it.
I think I may have been 8 or 9 the first time I saw it. Because, the house I grew up in, we would rent movies sometimes. And sometimes, they would rent, like more rated R movies. And then after they thought I was asleep, which was right next to the living room, I would sneak and like lay in the floor with my head around facing the living room where they couldn't see me, but I could see the TV, and I would watch. And I think that's how I watched Up in Smoke the first time.
I can remember watching Young Frankenstein the first time. And that was a movie that I don't know. Like, I watched it with my dad. School was getting ready to start back. So mom and dad got divorced. I was probably before third grade. So this is probably first, second grade. And I can remember dad laying on the couch watching it. And it was a Saturday. I know school was getting ready to start back because I'd got a new backpack and a new lunchbox, and I hadn't used them yet. And I was just kind of checking them out and remember watching it. That's probably the earliest comedy movie I can remember watching, and just I've never got tired of it. Like, I watch it every time I get the opportunity to see
now, one of the ones that, and I easily watched this movie 100 times, and I actually bought it on DVD back in the mid-2000s, Cloak and Dagger.
I don't know if I've seen
that. That had Elliott Thomas from E.T. in it. You've never saw Cloak and Dagger?
I don't know if I have. You may have stumped me on one. I don't know if I've seen that.
That is one of the best movies that I saw growing up. Now, when I rewatched it in the 2000s, I'm like, it's aged a little bit. That is a great, great movie. And you've never saw Cloak and Dagger?
If I have, I don't remember. I'll have to look into that. You may have got me on that.
You will have to check that. I mean, if you like kids mystery movies, this is a great one. And it has a twist in it, and you will love it. I mean, it is a good movie. And I wanted to be that little boy so bad just to find mysteries and stuff like that to get into, But Cloak and Dagger, that was a good one.
I'll definitely have to check that out. Movies to me growing up were probably a little bit of an obsession, more so than they are now. Like, I have a hard time now finding movies I enjoy. Like, I don't seem to enjoy newer movies, but I can go back and watch the same movies over and over again. But we was talking about Blazing Saddles. I remember, and I don't know how old I was. I was old enough to, I guess, to understand Blazing Saddles by this point. But I had a buddy named Clint, and he kept telling me about this movie. He's like, man, one of the funniest movies ever made. Only one place I know you can get it, the public library. I'm like, they got movies at the library? He's like, yeah, they do. He was like, go to the public library and rent History of the World Part 1. I'm like, okay, what could this possibly be? And I had never seen it. But, as soon as I seen it, I could tell this is another Mel Brooks movie. Like, this is something in the vein of Blazing Saddles or Spaceballs or something. And I went to the public library and rented it and found a way to dub it and make a copy of it with an extra VCR tape. And I had the only other copy in Knott County. None of the local video stores had it, and I was handing it out like candy. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever made.
They, and I used to love going to the video stores on Friday and Saturday nights,
loved it.
One of the things that we didn't have in Knott County, they had in other counties, is if you went out on a Saturday night, you had a free day on Sunday because they were closed. You could keep them to Monday. We didn't have that in Knott County.
Now, Movies and Munches and Video Solution both were open on Sunday.
Yes, they were. And, when I would come over to Pike County, stay with my dad and stuff, we would go rent video games on Saturday, and you wouldn't have to take them back till Monday, And that was because you got a free day because they were closed, And I always thought that was really cool. And I guess you could call this our pop culture episode.
Yeah.
Pop culture episode of Believe It or Not, Part 1. Now, before we close things out, and we talked about this earlier today when you first got to the studio here, the new Matrix movie, I will confess, until I saw your post on Facebook a few weeks ago, I had never saw any Matrix movie. I have since went back last week, and I watched all of them, including the new one. The first one was really good, okay? All of them were really good as far as acting, special effects. Some of the story to me in the second and third one went down just a little bit.
Yeah.
The fourth one, I like the fourth one. I mean, other than the first one, it's my favorite one. And I think it needed to be made because of the way that the movie ended. What's your thoughts on The Matrix, and what did you think the first time you saw The Matrix?
When I saw the first Matrix, the appeal to the first Matrix was real simple. I have a taste in a certain type of music that was mainstream for about 5 seconds in the late 90s. They called it nu metal and stuff like that. And the bands that meant the most to me were putting songs on soundtracks for the first time in forever.
Right.
And when the Matrix initially come out, I did not see it right off. I was the same way with Fight Club, one of my favorite movies of all time. Didn't see it till years later. But I didn't wait that long with Matrix. Matrix comes out and Rage Against the Machine's on the soundtrack. I buy the soundtrack. The imagery and stuff of the movie looked kind of cool, and I watched the movie. And it was one of those things where I didn't watch it and go, oh my God, this is true. This is it. I watched it and went, oh man, what if this is? Like, it was a fantasy that just entangled me. It was an epic story told really well. I'm a big action movie guy, not a big Keanu Reeves guy, actually. Didn't think he was a good choice for Neo at the beginning. Didn't like the idea of him being in the movie. I almost didn't watch it because of that. But like, when I first saw it, it just blew me away to the point that, like, I had a portable DVD player. It was nothing for me to watch The Matrix once, maybe twice a day. Second Matrix came out, seen it in the theaters. Loved it. It didn't touch the first one to me, but I thought it was a good continuation of the story. Third one come out. Me and my wife went to the theater and saw it. Liked it. Wasn't satisfied with the ending, but really, really liked the movie. And then from there, you had the comics and the anime, and I hate anime, and I sat through anime for that, it's made in an anime style. But you had the comics, the anime, the video games. The video games actually told different tangents and worked off that same story. Right. So, like, they've continually built this story over all these years, and then the new one comes out, and I watched it twice. I watched it once in the middle of a fever dream with COVID, I'll admit, the first time, and loved it. Wasn't sure what I'd seen. Watched it the second time. Like, I see the flaws. People are complaining, and I see it, but I wanted more Matrix, and I got it. And right. I know you're not crazy about the idea of maybe them doing more. If they can expand on that story and do it a little better than they did this particular movie, I'm all for it. I don't care if they make it to the end of time. Well,
but I mean, if they make two more, don't you think it would just be a repeat of the second and third one, because it will ultimately be the same thing?
If it is, then it'll be a big disappointment. It would be easy to go that way. I think what the Matrix needs and what'll solidify it, maybe for me, is a resolution, an actual, even if it's as far as everything ending and starting over from the beginning.
You kind of got that in the fourth one at the end.
See, to me, the fourth one really could have just come right after the first one, with a little bit of the second and third added in between there. Definitely. And so I'm not satisfied with where they're at. Like, okay. I want the machines to lose. I want the Matrix to be undone. I want, even if it means a hard, miserable life, like, I want society to start over from scratch again and actually be real people in a real world. So it leaves me disappointed in that aspect. It also left me disappointed in the aspect that I appreciate that Trinity is just as important as Neo, but I want Neo to still be Neo and still be important, and I was a little let down by that.
Before we wrap it up here, there's a movie came out about 4 years ago, Hardcore Henry.
I have heard of it. I've never seen it.
Okay. Don't. I mean, my son loved it. I had to get up and walk out of the theater several times because it hurt my head so bad.
It kind of like
it was shot in first person.
Yeah.
Constantly shot in first person. And the cuts and the editing, it was just, I mean, it honestly hurt my head. You know, it honestly made me sick.
I want to say one of the Cloverfield movies done me that way a little bit. It might have been Cloverfield. I can't remember.
Now,
it's an alien movie, though.
The only I've saw the first Cloverfield, and I've saw the one with John Goodman, and that's it. I've not saw any more past that.
I don't know if that's what it was or not. John Goodman's in one of them, but I've never seen that one, and I don't remember what the first one was about. But it was kind of that first person. The aliens were attacking the city, and it kind of done me that way.
That's probably the first one.
A lot of people said that about
the Blair Witch.
But it didn't do me that way.
It didn't do me that way.
I thought it was fascinating. I loved that idea.
For a no-budget movie that made millions of dollars, that was a great idea, great movie.
And I was convinced it was real footage there for a long time. When I was too, because the internet was new.
Yeah, and we went and saw it, and then later on that evening, Heather Donahue was on the David Letterman show, and I'm like, I told you that wasn't real. So, of course, I never did admit I thought it was real too. So, but thank you very much, everyone, for listening. You've been listening to Believe It or Not with Justin and Goose. We'll be back next time. Until then, what do you want to say in closing?
Everybody have a great day. Have a great new year. It's great to be back and be talking. And you've got our emails. If you've got any old pictures of Video Solution, Movies and Munches, Downtown Hyman, anything like that, that's something I'm really interested in. Email those to us. I'd like to look at those.
Yes, and our email address is believeItorNot, spelled KNOTT, @heretechewbubblegum.com. Have a great day and a happy new year, and we'll see you later.
See you.
Now is the moment that I have been waiting for the entire show. Ladies and gentlemen, by popular demand, I present to you the newest show that you can hear on Here to Chew Bubblegum, and we will also be featuring this on our YouTube page every week, the full audio and video. You will be able to see that every week. We will drop that on our YouTube page. I present to you episode 1 of Bowling with Bollin.
On a warm summer's evening, hot out on the trail, I met a man named Bollin Cox. All he wore was a pair of socks. He said,
"Son, I am naked as a jaybird."
And this is what I heard as he started to dance around. Let's go bowling, bowling, east and west, let's go bowling.
I am the best. I have my own ball and my own shoe.
Come on, let bowling bow with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Here to Chew Bubblegum proudly presents Bowling with Bollin.
Hello, gang. Welcome to the very first segment, Bowling with Bollin. Glad you could be with us today. Today we're going to be talking about killer alien robots. But first, I'd like to thank Goose and the gang at Here to Chew Bubblegum. Before we get started, I just want to mention Marsha Sue Jane did win the gold ribbon at the Trails annual cook-off. We got Dirty Dan to thank for that. She couldn't have done it without his expertise knowledge on how to handle sausages and balls and all kinds of other meat. She incorporated every bit of that into the contest, and let me tell you, the judges just absolutely loved it. And one more quick thing before we get started on the killer alien robots. Sally Jean Sue just wanted me to go ahead and tell everybody that I am not wearing pants during this recording. I was told that as long as I don't show you my legs and my regional area below my waist, that it would not be a problem. So, I'm most comfortable in doing it without pants. You guys just don't think about that as we go through this segment. Alright then, now that we got that out of the way, we're just going to jump right into it. Killer alien robots. I've always known, since I was a little boy, that we lived amongst killer alien robots. How did I come to think of this? Well, there's no other life forms in the universe. That, right off the bat, threw up questions and red flags and exclamation points, all kinds of symbols and stuff. So, how come we haven't seen life on other planets or the moon? We did go to the moon, didn't we? But we didn't find any life. And the universe is not the only place here. The universe goes beyond. So, you have to just wonder, what happened to all the life? Well, it goes back to this old thing that somebody thought of in the 1950s. The Fermi Paradox. If you've not heard of the Fermi Paradox, we're going to delve right into that right now. Now, the Fermi Paradox gets its name from physicist Enrico Fermi. He developed this theory back in 1950 when he gave multiple solutions on why, out of the 100 billion planets in existence, how come we can't find life on any of them? Is it because we're stupid? Possibly. That's, always could be a 50-50 shot of that. But, think about it. He says if other life forms can see us and can view us, what in the fuck would they want to come down here and interact with us for? We can't get along with each other. We go to war with each other. Hell, we're destroying our own planet. We can't even take care of ourselves, let alone somebody else's home. Would you invite over the town drunk? I wouldn't. I don't want my TV to get broke or my microwave to break. And I sure as hell don't want right in the middle of supper to have to get up and go out in the backyard and fight Jerry Wayne. Look, it all boils down to the way we act, the way we treat each other, and the way we live. We don't know none how to do that. So maybe extraterrestrial life are hiding from us. Or maybe we can't find extraterrestrial life on any of the other planets in existence because killer alien robots. Maybe all life forms were wiped out and now live here on Earth amongst us. Maybe that's the only way they could exist with us, is to kill everything else off and then come here to globally dominate us. Which, if that's the case, they're doing a damn good job of it. I have my theory that we do live amongst killer alien robots. It could be part of the reason that we're on a path set for self-destruction. They're killing us from the inside, folks. Look at people like Boris Johnson. Look at people, what's that guy's name that runs Facebook and the Facebooks? Look at the people like the Mark Zuckerbergs who literally is taking us into the next step of technology we've ever seen. We can't even fathom what's about to come. Not to mention, look at all the suspicious activity amongst the people of Hollywood. For example, somebody like Eminem. Eminem was a guy from Detroit back in the 90s, made a few albums, and then all of a sudden you didn't see him for a bunch of years, and he comes back and he's acting like an alien killer robot. Well, I don't trust him. I don't trust him, He sounds different. He raps different. He's an alien killer robot. He has to be. Just like Michael Jackson. Just like Elton John. Just like so many others. Brad Pitt. Johnny Depp. Do you ever wonder why there are rumors out there going around that our top government officials are eating babies? Eating babies! And not only eating them, they fucking them. They're fucking children. Well, at least that's the rumor. It all stems back to the Fermi Paradox. It can all be explained scientifically. We just got to open our eyes up, and we got to look. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you've heard it multiple times throughout the airwaves, over the Tickety Talks, over the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the Twitches and the Snapchats and all this social media. Who knows what's to come next? It don't matter. Just take a look around, folks. Take a look around at some of you friends, some of you family, some of you neighbors. Hell, just look at some of these strangers walking around out here on the trail. Clear alien killer robots. Now, they don't kill every day. They're not going to kill. They're going to get all the information they can out of us. How far can they push us? How far will we push back? All these are valid questions when talking about the Fermi Paradox. I'm sure if Enrico was with us today, he couldn't even begin to fathom how far out of control our civilizations have spiraled. The best thing we could possibly do is to take a step back. Take a step back and look around. Look at our surroundings, our environment. Maybe take a second to think every once in a while, wait a minute, how am I treating them? Are they treating me good? Am I treating them good? We need to start doing this. It's the only way we're going to weed out the killer alien robots. As long as we keep falling for their traps, they're just going to keep doing what they do. And eventually, there won't be no trail no more, folks. No, there won't. It's going to be nothing but what they want. Global destruction. And can I just say for a minute, folks, I'm afraid if the Fermi Paradox holds true, and it turns out that killer alien robots have indeed destroyed all other life forms in the universe and outside the universe, and only us stand to defend ourselves. I'm sorry, folks, but we are absolutely teetotally fucked. We can't defend ourselves. We won't defend each other, let alone ourselves. Now, folks, you may be wondering, why the hell am I in a bowling alley? Why did I name my segment Bollin with Bollin? Makes no difference. But just to be honest with you, I'm in a bowling alley. My buddy owns the bowling alley. It's after hours, and ain't nobody in here but me and little Bobby Ray Stevenson Dave and some of his bowling league. They got into a little trouble there a couple weeks back on New Year's Eve, and hell, I just thought I'd reward them since they've been through a hard time and come down here and let them bowl a little bit while I record this segment. But let me tell you, folks, it don't matter if we're in a bowling alley, if we're in a skating rink, if we're in a movie theater, if we're at work, if we're at home, if we're in the backyard, doesn't matter. If we're out in the pasture, out on the trail, on a horse, in a car, folks, we got to start treating each other better. We got to start looking for these killer alien robots, and we got to start teaming up with the people that's not. Because if we don't, this world will explode. And when that happens, you better hope that there's a good Lord above to save us every one. Otherwise, it'll just be like it was right before we was born. Do you remember that? Do you remember anything before you was born? No, you don't. You know why? Because there wasn't nothing. There wasn't nothing before we were born. What you need to do is, you need to heed my words, and you need to stand up, and you need to fight for what we got now. There could be nothing after death. So why not fight for today instead of living for tomorrow? There's nothing wrong with living for tomorrow. But none of you are doing it. None of you are doing it. You're just bickering and arguing back and forth between shit that don't matter. Enrico Fermi would be highly disappointed in the human race today. People not believing in scientists, people not believing in doctors. People who, quite frankly, don't know shit about shit, believing in themselves. Now, sure, part of that could be contributed because of the killer alien robots. There is no doubt in my mind that some of them are in charge. Case in point, Mitch McConnell has to be killer alien robot. Without question. What about Hillary Clinton? What? She's got killer alien robot written all over her. What about Dick Cheney? Killer alien robot. Bill Clinton, killer alien robot. Nancy Pelosi, killer alien robot. Seems to me the only one in the past 20 years that's had any goddamn sense is Harry Reid, and he's gone now. Clearly wasn't a killer alien robot. Now, folks, I know what you're sitting there thinking. I know exactly. I mean, you're thinking, well, this Bollin Cox guy is off his fucking rocker. He's a killer alien robot. You should be thinking that. You should be thinking that. Because even though I'm not, I could be. I could be. Rule no one out. Rule no one out. You've got to treat everybody the same until you can fully determine the status of the skeletal system of that body. Otherwise, you will find yourself face to face with possibly the T-1000. Possibly the T-2000. I could dive deeper into this, and I hope my friends there at the round table on Here to Chew Bubblegum and their pals get together at some point and discuss this further. Hell, I might even jump on a horse and head that way myself. And I hope that I didn't sound too preachy today, because, folks, that's not what I'm about. I'm not a preacher. I just want the world to do better. I want everybody to love one another and treat each other like they would want to be treated. And instead of looking at it as good versus evil, maybe we should look at it as humans versus killer alien robots. Because unless we do something about it, we don't stand a chance. Folks, that does it for the first segment of Bollin with Bollin. I'm really honored that Goose and Dirty Dan gave me this shot. Hope I done right by them. I hope you guys enjoyed everything. I will be back. You know, I got a lot of work to do out here on the trail. The trail goes a long way. It don't stop. And I'm just trying to provide and feed for my family. So I will be back. I will be back. Unless they cancel me. And who would cancel me? The killer alien robots. So folks, don't let that happen. Don't let that happen. Listen, guys. Thanks again. Remember my words. Roswell. Love you guys. Until next time, this has been Bollin Cox with his one ball out. Get her done.
Man, I love that. I love that, especially the end part. You may not agree with what Bollin has to say. I personally do. But you have to admire someone that tells you to and reminds you to take care of those that matter. Be nice to people. Pay it forward. And that's the same outlook that I have. Again, everyone, this is episode 63 of Here to Chew Bubblegum, special edition that features the programs of Here to Chew Bubblegum. Before we close things out, I want to remind everyone you can go vote for us now for Best Podcast at Appalachian Arts and Entertainment Awards.com. Just look for Goose of Here to Chew Bubblegum and push that little button and vote for us. Don't forget, you can also be on the lookout for Bitching with Bertha on YouTube and Cooking with Dirty Dan. Those are co-host Rebecca's Bitching with Bertha segment and Cooking with Dirty Dan. I want to close things out this week, and I want to remind everyone to be sure to check out Carbon Capture Shield, AdventuresWithPurpose.com, Till Valhalla Project, and special thanks to Carlin for all the voiceover work. Be sure to check out our friends that have their own shows. I'm talking about CK and Uncle Bill over at deadpit.com, Talk Junkie with Justin Perkins, Jordan and Brad of Down on the Holler, Seth Ambergy with Seth's Daily Podcast, Elliott, Gertie, and Beagle of SpookyFamilyPodcast.com, the Mountain Mysteries Podcast with Chris Sloan, and if you're a fan of Cronkite, he's now known as Paranormal Trucker. You can hear him, Snowman, and Large Marge over at Paranormal Trucker on YouTube. And don't forget about my friend John Marshall with his new show, Beyond the Paranormal Podcast, which you can hear every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch at 8 p.m. Again, Beyond the Paranormal Podcast with John Marshall. If you want to awaken more, be sure to check out Queen Rebecca. Rebecca Short on TikTok and Twitch. Just search Rebecca Short or Bitching with Bertha, or check out the HereToChewBubblegum.com website. That'll do it for this week. We'll see you next week, and until then, so long for now. And remember, if you're out on the roads today in the bluegrass state of Kentucky, please be safe. Take care. God bless. See you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to Here to Chew Bubblegum. Tune in next time as we dive deeper into things the government doesn't want us to know.